My name is Andrew McCarran. I'm the MD at SBC, and to my right is Dennis Algreen, but you all know him already.
Most of you, at least. I think vast majority hopefully does. Yeah, I'm Dennis Algreen. I'm the Senior Marketing Director. And we're here today just to give you a little bit of the tidbits and little snippets of how the show has performed, and just a few storylines that we are obviously quite pleased with, if I'm really honest. So we're going to get started with just some key stats. You will all have on your seats a fact sheet that's been distributed out. If anyone is missing that afterwards, let me know. We are also sending this fact sheet out as a PDF to all of your emails. So if you think we don't have you on an email list, please let us know afterwards, and we can make sure you're on there. Then you have kind of black and white what we'll talk about today. Essentially, we are now, this is our second year in Lisbon, and I think the main storylines here is also that second year brings about a lot of refinement from our first one. As we relocated to Lisbon, there was a lot of new sponsors, new partners, and new authorities to deal with. And I think we managed a lot of kind of refinement to that. But we'll start with some of the key stats. We are fortuitous enough that we have hit over our target of 30,000 attendees. So we're really pleased with that, and I think it has been felt throughout the show. I saw the expo hall still full today on day 3. So we're really pleased with that. That is a 20% increase from last year for our biggest flagship event. We also have further globalized the event, which is part of what we wanted to do with this. This needs to be a global forum. We've added 16 more countries represented to the list, which brings us to 150 countries. And especially quite a few regions that are, let's say, even Europe, but also outside of Europe, like Latin America, North America, Asia, Africa, as well as Oceania, are up by between 30 and 40 to all the way up to 80%. So we are definitely seeing more and more international and global attendance, which is exactly what we wanted to create here. So we've also taken great care that there is content for all those markets at the event, and we'll get a little bit more into that later. We've also managed to increase our operator and affiliate attendance, operators by 31% and affiliates by 38% since last year's show. I think a particular stat that I'm quite proud of is we have had nearly 6,000 C-level decision makers at this event. I am fairly confident that is the highest percentage of senior decision makers of any industry event, and that is just CEOs and other C-levels counted. You will have seen that while the show floor could look a little bit similar in terms of layout and size, it has indeed grown. We've reshuffled some things, and especially the way that the Affiliate Leaders Summit is connected with the rest is a little bit different this year. So we have increased the size, the total spread of the event from 10,000 square meters to 135,000 square meters. And we have also been lucky enough that we've seen over 200 new sponsors and exhibitors that were not here last year, this year. So we also, and you will have seen this, we've had quite a lot of high profile, both keynotes and sports stars visiting the event. We've taken great care to make sure that we start infusing these events with more and more outside knowledge, maybe not necessarily from the industry, but we need to be learning from other industries and some of the absolute tech pioneers. And that's why we brought in people like Gary Vaynerchuk and Randy Zuckerberg to specifically help people understand a little bit better around AI, around kind of day trading, and elements that are connected with our industry, but not necessarily seen as traditional content for the industry. We've also had plenty of sports stars. We've had a couple on the super stage. We had the world heavyweight champion, Alexander Usyk, and we've had Rubens Barrichello on the super stage as well. And then we did have a lineup of 20 plus proper football legends on one session. I'm not going to start listing out the names, but you will be able to find that on the website. I've listed a few in the presentation, but as this was partly and connected with our Legends charity game, one of the new initiatives we added in this year. In terms of impact for a city like Lisbon, we are of course bringing about 30,000 attendees in to a city that has 550,000. So I know that hotels could have been a bit of an issue for those booking late, but it also means that it has significant impact. We've had what is estimated around 72,000 room nights booked by guests, and we are still calculating the final financial impact for a city like Lisbon. But that is also why we've worked and been able to work much closer with the local authorities. This has a significance for the local community now. So yeah, and then in terms of new additions, I think some of them maybe you want to talk about?
Yeah, sure. So to underline, obviously we've got a range of exhibitions. This has been our biggest one in different geographies. This is our global event. So to underline that, we did a bit of a tweak to our main conference stages this year. So we had the emerging market stage. Each day covered a different region. I'm not sure if you sat in on some of those, but some really interesting stuff, where some of the future of the market's going to be. And then on the other stage, we had the existing markets, the bread and butter markets, and all the developments that are happening there. Some of them good developments, mostly more restrictions at the moment, as we all well know, and pair them up with dedicated networking spaces as well. So people in those regions can not only network with each other, but with people wanting to get to know more about those regions. There's an easy way of doing the networking as well, because the conference is a big part of SBC Summit, but networking is also a massive part of it, and you'll appreciate that's why we invest quite so much in our networking opportunities across the 3 days, 4 days now.
Yeah, and then we added tech academies as well. So again, some of them more founded and kind of centered in and around the industry disciplines, but also some of them a lot more kind of on the periphery of that, covering AI, Web 3.0, blockchain, and marketing, gamification. Yeah. So those tech academies, they're new for this year. We hosted them in the MEO, is it that way? The big arena. So it's got a much different vibe in there. It's much more about learning and understanding a bit more about these nascent technologies. Well, not so much nascent these days, but what can be done with them. So we've got lots of experts from outside the industry again, just to, the technology is going to be the thing that brings us forward. The internet is why we're all here, because that's created our industry. And we've got to be looking to the next stage. And these essentially workshops, but the academies are a way of learning more in a nice relaxed environment, and working out how we can best apply it to our own industries. Yeah. You will also see a couple of new additions outside of that, more on the networking side. Legends charity game was obviously added in as something that wasn't part of SBC Summit, but sits with it and goes hand in hand. This is something that was very close to our hearts, and especially also for our top management. And I think we managed to give everybody a good experience. The game was actually entertaining, and it was TV transmission to millions of viewers globally. And I think the lineups spoke for themselves. I at least was seeing pretty much every player from my youth when I started watching football. And maybe I was a little bit biased with some of the Real Madrid stars, but that's on me.
Yeah, well, as a Manchester United season ticket holder, it was nice to watch a good football game. Nice, entertaining, and plenty of skill on show. So, yeah, it's obviously a big leap for us to add a whole international football game into our schedule. Just goes to show how we keep trying to push things forward at SBC, how we keep trying to do something different. Obviously, football is quite entwined with gambling, and by putting on the most amazing event on the Monday night, which was watched to an international audience. I mean, there was 500,000 people watched it online in Spain alone. It was available on ITVX in the UK. There was I think it was 19 different jurisdictions that showed the game live, and the idea was it was for the industry to come together and raise essentially a shitload of money for some charities. We're still collating how much that is. We don't think we're going to quite make the million that we wanted to this week, but we're going to keep going at it. But we have raised an incredible amount, and everybody who's contributed to that, there's lots of exhibitors in there some of them have put in Kaizen Gaming put in 150,000 euros. It's absolutely amazing the support they've got from it, and it's something that we should all do, and we should all be very proud of ourselves, because the industry gets enough brickbats as it is. So when we do something good, we should push it.
Yeah, if you're sitting around with a bit of spare change, there's still an auction going on as well inside the halls with some signed paraphernalia. So hence why we're not quite done either yet.
Yeah, I mean, you say spare change. The opening bids are a bit higher. I remember my time as a journalist. It would be beyond my pocket. But you can see them, they're nice.
Yeah. We also added the Affiliate Leaders Awards. And while we've done SBC Awards for many years now, and we've kind of scaled those up over the years from something fairly intimate. I think did we start underneath Stamford Bridge?
No, the very first one was 4 awards in a German theme bar on Fulham High Street. So, yeah, that's come a long way in 11 years.
And now we're looking at SBC Awards being an event for about 1,200 seated guests. So obviously, Affiliate Leaders Awards as a new one starts a little bit smaller than that. However, seemed like a logical expansion to our engagement with the affiliate communities in light of also the growth of Affiliate Leaders Summit as part of this. So we wanted to take extra care and kind of dedicate something for that segment specifically, so we can give that the attention it deserves.
Did anyone in here make it to the Affiliate Awards last night? That's good, okay. Oh, just you. All right. For those of you who didn't know, I was the co-host, so that's why Dennis was ribbing me earlier. So it's, I got through it without any fumbles.
I've said nothing but nice things. I'd say you're a better co-host than any of the sports stars we sometimes hire. You're more fun.
More fun.
Yeah, less star quality maybe, but more fun.
I have to work on that.
Fair enough. But yeah, and then of course you will also see that some things were kind of already existed last year, and they've more seen refinements and little adjustments here and there. I think the Super Stage, for instance, is something that we will keep utilizing to especially host some of these big profile knowledge contributors and pioneers from outside of the industry. I think it's important that we learn from wherever we can, and sometimes we don't propose to have all the answers within the industry already. So important we source that in, and that's part of our responsibility as contributors to the industry.
I mean, it can be quite difficult sometimes choosing a keynote for that, because to be quite frank, our industry can be quite cutting edge when it comes to some of the technology. So finding the right people who provide a good message and good information, and has also got a star quality, can be quite tricky, but I think we absolutely nailed it this year. I mean, I'm not sure how many went to the Gary Vaynerchuk keynote, but he had a hell of an issue getting off the stage. Alexander Usyk was coming on afterwards, and there was still loads of people mobbing Gary Vaynerchuk, and he's probably wondering what the hell's going on. This usually happens to me. But everybody was absolutely amazed by Gary V's address, and that's why we utilised him later on in both the Marketing Tech Academy and the Web 3.0. So there was 3 bites of the cherry there.
Yeah, I bookmarked a couple of sessions. I need to rewatch on the content afterwards, because we don't really get much of a chance during the week, of course. But I look forward to that. And as you've seen, Affiliate Leaders Summit and Payment Experts Summit also continue as kind of separately marked events within the event, if you will. essentially because they have their own kind of standalone communities to some degree, and we want to make sure that we continue to cater to those and facilitate opportunities in those spaces as well. You will also see that we will repeat SBC Awards and Infinity. We're just not actually quite there yet. That's what we still have to look forward to for tonight. I hope everybody will get a chance to join. I know I will, and I really look forward to a fantastic celebration to kind of close out the whole show. I think Infinity, while we already had a couple of superstar DJs at our opening party this year, Infinity again kind of raises the roof for how we can close out some of these events. And while we all have a long week, at least that evening in particular, most people should be able to kind of let loose and have a bit of fun as well.
Yeah, the great thing about Infinity, I mean, we've got these two DJs. I'm old, I've never heard of either of them, but they're very expensive, so I'm assuming they're very good. But this approach that we've taken, it really lifts the atmosphere at the end of a long week. I mean, people might scoff at EDM, but it's actually really good for getting you up and letting out all that tension and just having a good time. And it's a great full stop to a very, very packed week where you've all worked really hard. And it's great if you can all join us on that.
Yeah. A few small things I do want to keep also mention is we still had our SBC First Pitch competition today as well, something that still sees a lot of interest. And I think important that we continue to connect with startups and some of those innovation pioneers that might not be big scale, but there are oftentimes some solutions and really, really interesting kind of innovations coming from those spaces. So that in combination with having a dedicated startup zone still on the floor plan is a way for us to make sure that we give a affordable and convenient option for those companies to kind of put themselves out there and make sure that those ideas are infused into our industry and everybody else. We also did have a couple of initiatives that we will continue, a community of women in gaming that we continue to support and engage with. We have our own Women's Empowerment Initiative, and as part of that, we've had several networking gatherings, a networking dînatoire at the glorious Marriott Hotel, as well as a super stage session around women in tech and sports and gaming. So something we're proud of and we will continue to do. We have some fantastic, passionate people, luckily internally, that are helping out with this. So that's something we'll continue as well.
Yeah, cool. And one thing I want to say, obviously, we had over 500 speakers at this event. That's a lot of expertise. I think it was 507. The original target was 475, I think. Nobody puts on as much content as SBC does. No one does networking as good as SBC does. I honestly think we're by far the best in the industry, but not only that, I think we are one of the best event organisers in the world now. And that's just from experience of going to other ones. What we do, our attention to detail, our care of what the delegate experience is like, it is second to none. And we appreciate all your support in encouraging people to come and experience it with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of the effort for this year, and as I said initially, the refinements, it can be minor details, but they end up making a whole in terms of a much improved experience on site. I think logistically and just little things like adding shuttle buses for convenient transport in a city that can be challenging for that is one thing. Making sure that the connection between the different areas of the exhibition as well as the flow through them was vastly improved this year. A lot of work goes into that, and it can be sometimes something easily missed, but it is something that really, really helps with the overall kind of perception and experience on site. So yeah, really good work from the teams on our end that are responsible for that. And then the rest of us can just kind of hope that continues and that we can continue to then communicate this successfully about our events. Anything else?
No, I'm open to any questions.
Yeah. Yes?
What was the key factor that made you decide to make Lisbon your global summit?
I think the venue is a key factor in that. The venue, the location, there's a lot of factors goes into that, of course. Accessibility from the various markets, it needs to be fairly easy to travel to, but also the venue. When we put on an event of this scale, options, even if you look at all of Europe, are not exactly plentiful. So in terms of convenience, expected weather conditions, which we at least got this year. We didn't get lucky with that last year, to be fair. But a lot of factors. But the venue is a lot of that restriction simply because the way that attention to detail that Andy mentioned also goes into what are our options on site? What can we do with the different locations? And if we want to put on something like the Superstage and the SBC Awards and the Infinity, having an arena, one of the biggest indoor arenas in Europe, connected with this, obviously, is something that, for instance, makes a big difference.
So it wasn't really a thing about marketing and regulatory strategy and the history of the European markets, compared to the global markets. It was mostly location.
Location. There's a lot of cities that are quite frequently visited by our industry. Lisbon was a beautiful city which had been untouched for quite a while. And when we approached our major customers, they were very excited to come here because fantastic food, great wine, great weather, beautiful city, generally accessible as well. Plus, with the Brazilian market becoming the next big market, it's very accessible between Portugal and Brazil. So what we find is that certainly a lot of operators also want to check out Lisbon because they want to set up themselves in Portugal to access the Brazilian market.
Anyone else? Yeah.
Question on behalf of Yogonet. So the charity game is an event of.
So the charity game seems like an event of unprecedented size for the show. I mean, the scale of the people involved, the size of the mission this event had. I wanted to ask you how you feel about how the event paid off, and if you see it as paving the way for tackling future initiatives of this same size, as you said, broadcast in other countries, all the people involved.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that, of course, helps bring in a lot of wider attention in and around both from the local communities here. And I think, we're not moving away from Lisbon anytime soon. So it is important for us that we also think wider about how the city receives us and what else we do. And I think it has a good impact for that. This was never an event that was added in for profit, as you can imagine, but rather because there is... we want to show also what the industry can do. We've had a few charitable kind of initiatives in the past as well. This felt like a going big in that direction, essentially. And because we have built quite substantial connections and options over time, engaging with the sports community, we had an option and an opportunity here to do something that felt a bit extra.
I mean, I'll be honest with you, I don't think we'll understand the true impact of it for another couple of weeks yet. The monies are still coming in, still hard things to digest. We've just obviously going from an event that we've never organised before to our biggest event ever. We've not really had a lot of time to digest a lot of the things. But at the end of the day, we're an events company, and it's another string to our bow.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Yeah.
After such an amazing event this year, including the charity football match, how do you better it next year?
That is a good question, and I can tell you that any realistic answer to that is maybe a month out, because the next few weeks and pretty much all of our time the next few weeks goes with collecting everything, collecting all the feedback, collecting all the data. So that we can understand everything. And that is down to both sponsors and exhibitors with individual experiences and stories where we might be able to find improvements. It is just overall data indicators as far down as to who entered what entrance at what time. These are things that we spend a lot of time on. So I don't think any of us will have much of an honest answer to that just yet. I think, however, what we did show with this year is that we are ready to make those improvements, and that will continue. We're not just here to now rest on our laurels after a successful event. We want to give the entire industry and all of our attendees and sponsors the best possible experience you can have. This is named the greatest show in gaming, and not just as a marketing stunt. It is part of a vision for what we always thought this could be, and I think we are there. Yep.
Thank you. I remember last year in the conference, I did actually speak to you about your ambitions to kind of grow the attendance from different countries, and I'm looking at this and I see, you know, like one of the countries we talked about, not countries, but one of the regions we spoke about was Africa. That's gone up really high, which is great. Are there any other regions that you'd be looking for to try and grow going forward next year in terms of their attendance at the show?
Yeah, I mean, Africa, I think overall we want a global audience, which means all regions are interesting. Europe is not a tricky thing to grow or get attention from, as you can imagine. Africa, Asia, North and South America are more tricky, or they have longer journeys. There are different budgets or different traditions for traveling. I think especially Asia and Africa is something we've seen really boom this year from last year. And fair enough, Latin America, Brazil at the moment does carry a lot of the percentage of that increase, but that's given the interest in that current market and from that current market. What we usually see is then if another market emerges or booms in the meantime, then another one will carry that growth or help support that growth next time.
We're seeing a lot of movement in UAE. Talk about that.
That depends on what that development will see. I don't know. Obviously, I think we have people looking into what the developments in the markets are and where we need to look at expansion. You could argue that is likely, that if that kind of emerges, then
I still think that's a couple of years on yet.
I would
but it's
reckon
definitely
so.
on the runway.
Yeah.
But it's probably worth mentioning, if you've not noticed, next year's event is just slightly later in the month. That's just something to highlight. Again, with events this big, we are at the mercy of the availability of some of the venues, and sometimes things change around, so we're just slightly later next year.
Yeah. Also because we want proper prep when we book these, right? We need proper build-up, so we have the time and the option to deliver this quality of an event, essentially. Anyone else? Okay.
All good?
Yeah,
Yeah.
look, maybe this is a really stupid question. It's my first time at any type of gaming event. It's not my area normally, so please stick with me. The one language I've heard more than any other language throughout the last 3 days is Russian. Now, there's a war going on, obviously, so they're coming here, which is, I'm not saying that's bad, it's great, you know, they're not involved. But I mean, is there some particular reason why the Russians are they fanatic gamers or something? So there must be a lot of gaming companies coming out of Russia or linked to Russia.
I mean, I always say that. I mean, there's a lot of tech, gambling tech, and expertise in the nearby CIS countries. So Georgia and Armenia were very heavily represented here. Other than that, I couldn't really tell you.